Society tells you that self-care is a $20 bath bomb. I am here to tell you that is a lie, not a gentle misunderstanding, not a well-meaning oversimplification. A lie. A very profitable lie told by a $450 billion industry that makes its money convincing women that what we need is softer skin and a scented candle rather than a bank account nobody can touch. I have been thinking about this for years, and the older I get, the clearer it becomes. Real self-care is not about escaping your life for 20 minutes. It is about having the financial power to leave a situation that no longer serves you. Your dignity should not have a price tag. And yet, for too many women, it does. That is what I want to talk about today. The wellness industry and what it is really selling, let me give you a number. $450 billion. That is the size of the global wellness industry in 2026. Spa treatments, skincare, retreats, supplements, meditation apps, breathwork courses, all of it marketed very specifically at women. All of it positioned as the answer to stress, anxiety, depletion, overwhelm, and here is what none of it addresses. The reason most women are stressed, anxious, depleted, and overwhelmed in the first place is not that they need a better moisturizer. It is that they are financially precarious. It is that they are one job loss, one broken relationship, one medical bill away from a situation they cannot get out of. The anxiety is not irrational. The anxiety is accurate. And no amount of rose-infused bath salts dissolves the underlying mathematics of dependency. I am not dismissing comfort. I am not telling you that a good meal or a long walk or an hour of quiet does not matter. It does. But comfort is not the same as safety. And what the wellness industry sells is comfort, temporary relief from a situation it has no interest in helping you change. Because if you change the situation, you would not need the product. The real foundation of mental health, the layer underneath everything else, is the knowledge that you are not trapped. That if something in your life became unacceptable, you would have the means to leave it. That knowledge does not come from a skincare routine. It comes from a number in a bank account, the exit fund nobody talks about. There is a concept I want to name directly, because too many women I know have arrived at this understanding only after they needed it and did not have it. It is sometimes called an exit fund, a safety fund. Some people call it, less delicately, a fund whose name I will not say on this channel, but whose meaning you understand immediately. A fund that means you can walk away, not an emergency fund in the traditional sense, not 3 months of living expenses sitting in a savings account for when the boiler breaks or the car needs work. Something more intentional than that. A fund specifically designed to give you options when a situation, professional or personal, becomes one you should no longer be in. The quiet terror that nobody talks about is this. Most women who stay in situations that are bad for them, bad jobs, bad relationships, living arrangements that diminish them, do not stay because they do not know the situation is bad. They stay because the current cost of living makes leaving feel impossible. They stay because the maths does not add up. They stay because the alternative is not abstract discomfort, but concrete crisis. Where will I live? How will I eat? What happens to everything I have built? That is not weakness. That is arithmetic. And the answer to it is not therapy or self-compassion, though both have their place. The answer is liquid capital, money you can access, money that is yours alone, money that functions as a door and keeps that door open. I think every woman should have this fund. I think it should be non-negotiable, the way we treat other non-negotiables. I think it should exist before you feel like you need it, because the moment you need it is the moment you most wish you had started earlier. Rewriting what budgeting means. Most of us were taught to think about budgeting as restriction, as a set of rules about what we cannot have, as a slightly punishing exercise in discipline. I want you to reframe it entirely. Budgeting, real strategic budgeting, is not about restriction. It is about direction. It is the act of deciding, actively and deliberately, where your money goes, rather than watching it disappear and wondering why there is nothing left. It is the difference between being a passive participant in your own financial life and being the architect of it. In 2026, this matters more than it ever has. Inflation has changed the landscape of what traditional financial advice calls an emergency fund. The standard guidance, 3 to 6 months of living expenses, was built for a different cost of living reality. Housing markets in most major cities have shifted to a point where that number needs to be revisited, recalculated, and in many cases, significantly increased. What felt like a cushion a decade ago now barely covers a gap. This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to make you precise. Because precision, knowing your actual numbers, your actual monthly outgoings, your actual gap, is the beginning of power. You cannot build toward a target you have not defined. And vague financial anxiety, which most women carry silently, is infinitely more exhausting than a clear-eyed reckoning with the numbers. The shift I am asking you to make is this. Stop seeing your budget as a record of what you spent and start seeing it as a blueprint for where you are going. Every pound or dollar you direct intentionally toward your exit fund, your savings, your investments, that is not deprivation, that is self-preservation in its most practical form. Owning your future, not just surviving it. Saving is the floor. It is necessary and it is not enough. Because the goal, the real goal, for women at any age, but particularly for women in the second half of life, is not simply to have a fund that lets you leave bad situations. It is to build wealth that means your older self never has to depend on anyone else's goodwill, anyone else's charity, anyone else's continued presence in your life to be okay. That is a different kind of freedom, and it requires a different kind of thinking. Investing used to feel like a subject that belonged to a different kind of person, someone with more money, more confidence, more access to the right information. I understand that feeling because I had it for a long time. But here is what I have come to understand. The compounding effect of ownership of assets that grow over time is one of the most powerful forces available to anyone who participates in it. And the cost of not participating, for women specifically, is enormous. Women live longer than men. We spend more years in retirement. We are more likely to face those years alone. The financial decisions we make now or do not make determine what those years look like, whether we have choices or we have constraints, whether we can give to the people we love from a place of abundance or whether we are ourselves dependent on others' generosity. In a 2026 economy where labor is increasingly volatile and automation continues to reshape which skills hold their value, the case for ownership of assets, of equity, of things that generate returns independently of your daily effort has never been stronger. Understanding markets and investments is not a specialist skill for a specific kind of person. It is literacy, and opting out of that literacy has real costs. I am not telling you to take risks you cannot afford. I am telling you to stop treating financial knowledge as something other people do and start treating it as something you deserve to have. what money actually changes. I want to end with something that is harder to quantify, but that I believe completely. Financial independence changes a woman's posture. Not literally, though, sometimes literally. But I mean something more fundamental than that. It changes the way she enters a room, the way she speaks in meetings, the way she responds when someone treats her in a way she should not accept, the way she moves through negotiations, through relationships, through the small daily moments where dignity is either preserved or slowly given away. When you know that you are not trapped, that you have options, that you have resources, that you have built something that belongs to you, you carry yourself differently. You speak more directly. You tolerate less. Not because you have become harder or colder, but because you are no longer operating from fear. You are operating from a foundation. True peace, the kind that sits in your body and does not require maintenance, is not found in a candle or a retreat or a wellness subscription. It is found in a bank account that means you never have to negotiate your worth. It is found in a portfolio that means your older self is provided for. It is found in the knowledge that no matter what happens in any relationship, any job, any external circumstance, you will be okay. That is not a luxury. That is the baseline, and every woman deserves it. Start today. Not when you feel ready. Not when the numbers are bigger or the timing is better. Today, with whatever is available to you right now. Because the most expensive thing about financial independence is the time you spend not building it. If this landed somewhere real for you, please share it with a woman who needs to hear it. And if you are not already here, subscribe, because this is exactly what we talk about on this porch. I am Patricia, and I will see you next week.